on this computer.
Archie, leave it. Archie, leave it. Release.
All right, Todd, did you, is the link to the YouTube channel also on the meetup somewhere?
If not, I can, I'll send out an email post meeting that will have a link to the video and all the other previous videos on the channel.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. All right, so there's a lot going on right now, with regards to AWE. This is a conference that is going on until tomorrow. This conference has been around, I think, for 7 years now. I do know some folks who have gone to it, so they do talk
Archie,
about
leave it. Release. Hey.
So we do have so there are people that I do know that have attended the conference. It's definitely a lot of great sessions. They do a lot of product announcements, a lot of software announcements and things like that. So if you do have the time and money next year to go to an in-person conference with regards to virtual reality and augmented reality, this is one of the top ones to go to. So let's just check this real quick. Okay. So on this particular one, there is they do have a let me grab both of these and put them in chat real quick. So we got it. Chat. All right. Okay, so on the particular Twitter handle that they have, they do mention about a lot of the news and events that is coming out of the conference. A lot of new products, not a lot of new software, different types of things. So I don't know how many of you are on Twitter, but it does seem to be still, you know, an awesome social media platform to distribute great information out of it. So if you go through their Twitter stream, there's a lot of information here, too much to actually cover, but they do go over a lot of neat, cool things, a lot of presentations, more product announcements, you know, and it's just great to be able to see people meeting, surprisingly enough, in person once again, you know, go figure. So I think that's great. And they did mention this one particular one on Magic Leap 2. So I did want to chat about that for a moment, because we are going to cover Project Cambria from Facebook/Meta a little bit later. So it seems like the HoloLens 2 is getting, you know, if imitation is the greatest form of flattery, then HoloLens 2 definitely definitely wins, because the things that the Magic Leap 2 looks a lot like a HoloLens 2. Same thing with Project Cambria that we'll get to. The interesting part is this phrase where they say they can block up to almost 90, well, they say it flat out, 99.7% of the outside light, but you don't see any coverings on the side. So it's like, how are they doing this in an augmented reality headset and they're able to block out so much of the light? So I'd still like to be able to understand how they're doing it. So if you're interested in what's going on with AWE, by all means, take a look at those links and, you know, see what's what. And it wraps up tomorrow. So I'm sure even tomorrow they're going to have more news and events coming out of that.
Todd, where's it held?
Let me go to the first one. I'm positive it's in California somewhere.
Okay, maybe next year I'll go.
Expo.
Oh, yes, it is in Santa Clara.
Santa Clara. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
Oh,
you.
nice.
But I, you know, only now I get to know. But yeah, it's too expensive for me to go. Yes.
Yeah, so something for next year, but it's definitely a well-attended event. by people who are into virtual reality and augmented reality, and then obviously a lot of the companies and the networking opportunities to be able to do things with that. All right, so I did mention a little bit about mental health. I do have this particular app installed on my headset, and I really like Tripp, and I've had a couple of conversations via Twitter with the founder of Tripp. So they do a lot of mental health applications, things for things like meditation, pain reduction, just being able to literally check out of reality and, forget about, what's going on in the world. So it's a very relaxing, they have a set of different types of relaxing experiences. They also have a lot of other types of experiences that they do offer. It is a subscription service, but what I would like to mention is that they just received another $11 million in funding. And if you look at the link, this is amazing. I mean, that's a lot of money to develop additional applications. When we talked about Unreal Engine and Unity, they're mainly a Unity shop, but I've talked to the founder, and she does say that, hey, if you come up with something that's Unreal Engine based, they'd be interested in taking a look at that. So anyway, Tripp is really a neat application, runs on Oculus Quest 2. And if you ever want to just be able to relax before you go to bed at night or do something, by all means, take a look at the Tripp application. So far, any questions or comments of what we looked at so far? Nope. All right. So with regards to headsets, Pimax, there is one gentleman in our group, I believe it's Jeff. He has the original Pimax, and Pimax just released this brand new thing called the Crystal, surprisingly enough. So if you look at the view playback event, and if you go to the, I think I looked at the 31 minutes and 43 seconds, they actually will tell you the price on this thing, and it is $1,899. It is an extremely gorgeous headset. It's got a lot of things going for it. Obviously, the field of view is insane. If you've ever seen a Pimax in person, it's a huge box, literally, that fits over your face. And it was kind of heavy in the original ones. They're not using plastic anymore. They are using glass on the Pimax Crystal. So the optics are exceptionally clear, and they don't have a lot of distortion on them. But again, at the we'll put this in the chat as well. At the 31 minute, 43 second mark, they go into some of the specific details on the features and benefits of it. But this is obviously not somebody who's just getting into VR for the first time. This is an expensive headset. It's not the most expensive headset, but it's still a very expensive headset. Will I be buying one? I've got to save some money for some other types of things, maybe sometime in the future, but it's just great to see that VR is continuing to push the state of the art on visual fidelity and trying to bring the cost down to the point where high-end consumers and aficionados can afford this. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have used a Pimax before by chance?
Yeah, I remember the person who brought in his full setup when we met in person, and he had some games and things that he demoed. And it was the super wide field of view was pretty incredible.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it encompasses your peripheral vision, and it's like, it's one thing to look at something in front of your face, but when it encompasses your peripheral vision, it gives you that additional oomph of level of immersion, where when you're constantly looking around, you're not seeing any dark spots or blind spots. You're just there.
Yeah.
And Pimax
It
does.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
definitely turn the immersion up a couple notches. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and Pimax does work with Steam VR, and there is some software available that does allow you to use Steam VR to connect to Oculus, Quest games. So both those ecosystems are available to you if you choose to go the Pimax route. All right. So Magic Leap 1 at COVAR, we have seen a couple of these going around, and I have seen some pretty good demos with them. They did have some good things going for them, but Magic Leap hit the skids, as it were, and they had to scale back their vision in addition to laying off people and what they wanted to do, and a lot of pivoting and restructuring, things like that. So the Magic Leap 2 is not available for purchase for consumers. They're really marketing that for enterprise customers only. Now, with that being said, if you did want to get into the Magic Leap 1, they are being sold for $550. This used to be a multi-$1,000 purchase. And now to think that in just a few short years, something that was once $2,300 can now be had for something far more reasonable. Now there's not, they're not developing any more software for it. You have to be able to, still finagle some things to get it to work right. I've heard it can be used with Unity. They've got some Unreal Engine stuff that I've heard about, but at the same time, hey, if you really wanted to get into augmented reality on the cheap for a decent headset, $550, that's palatable. A little bit easier to swallow than $2,300 for that. So like I said, we have seen Magic Leap in person. Just curious, have anybody else had a chance to try a Magic Leap?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, somebody did bring that in one time when we were meeting. It seemed to me like it was fairly similar to the HoloLens 1, as I remember, where the field of view was, so narrow that it was almost comically narrow,
Yeah, it did seem like you were looking through a tunnel, but it really did give an insight into some of the cool things with augmented reality. Like I think the one I looked at, they, in the room that we were in, it projected a hole in the wall, and it looked like it had been hit with like a cannonball or something like that, and it stayed on the wall. Like you could move your head, and you could still see the cannonball hole in the wall, even though you're looking around. So it did, attach it successfully, and provide that illusion that, hey, that looks like somebody just fired some ancient cannonball through the wall. So yeah, and then they had a couple different things that were some games and things like that. But yeah, so amazing to think that 5 years from now, what is that going to look like? Where some things that were super crazy expensive are now all of a sudden available to consumers with a little bit of cash to spend on these devices. All right, so next up is going to be Project Cambria. This has been rumored for a while in a couple different areas that I follow, but this is one by Brad Lynch, and he has been a pretty good source of other leaks or information coming out into the industry. So this is the latest leak from Project Cambria. He did set up his own Patron to make a little money from his leak and stuff like that. But what I did want to point out is the absolute similarities to the HoloLens 2 on this particular image. And then you can see a couple more things Let me put this into chat, both of these into chat, so everybody has them. All right, so this the second link on this on Road to VR, which is a really great website, by the way. I do subscribe to their email newsletter, and this is how I keep up to date. I don't read every single thing or click on every single link, but I do skim and scan a lot of their email newsletters, and this is how I keep up to date on a lot of things. So this was just released today, this particular article, and they do go into a few more of the details on Project Cambria. So this is coming out of Facebook/Meta. This is their augmented reality headset, literally a HoloLens 2 competitor is what this comes down to. So it looks like they do have a knob on the back to control the size and the snugness on the back of the headset. But then they also have this interesting little knob on the front of the headset. And it's been rumored that this is an IPD adjustment, meaning this is going to move the lenses for inside the actual headset, so you can actually see a little bit better. But like I said, I mean, so that's Cambria, and this is another a rendering of it. And if you ever look at the HoloLens 2, it looks eerily similar. So, like I said, you know, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. The optics on it are pretty incredible. I don't know if they're glass or they're plastic. And again, talking about the Magic Leap 2, I still not quite sure how they shut out light coming in from the sides on that. I don't know if they're just going to have, you know, something on the side, or how that's actually going to how it's going to work. I don't know what the exact field of view is, but it does seem to be closer to 120 degrees, which is almost like, so it's not tunnel vision, but it is broad enough to be into your peripheral vision. And they still haven't come out with the higher, they still have not come out with the actual cost. It does seem it's going to be, you know, maybe $1,000 for it. Who knows when it comes out, but you know, 256 gigs of storage space, you know, 12 gigs of RAM. You're literally, and they've talked about this before. This is literally an incredible face computer. This thing has got some specs that would, you know, run circles around computers that were, you know, not more than 10 years ago. It still runs the Qualcomm XR2 chipset, so it is not an XR3. So they're really pushing the limits of what the XR2 is capable of. So I'm curious to see what this thing looks like when it's going to be released. Will I be buying one? This would be the first augmented reality headset coming out of Facebook/Meta. If it's under 1,000, I might bite. If it's over 1,000, I don't know. That's a bit of a pain point for me. You know, is it less than $1,000? I can afford it. If it's more than $1,000, I might not be able to afford that. So, any questions or comments on the Cambria Leak? No.
So, not specific to this, but this is Sudhi. So the question is, what's the ecosystem for the apps publishing on these different sets? Will Magic Leap have its own ecosystem? Cambria have its own? The HoloLens has its own? Is it going to be that way?
Yes. The actual hardware vendors, they tend to have their own ecosystems that they want you to buy through their app stores. Although when they allow people to enable what's called developer mode, when you do that, then you can either directly load or you can what's called side loading an application, generally an Android application, onto the device itself. So that's if you've ever heard SideQuest, that's what SideQuest is. This is a way of sideloading Android applications directly onto the device. With regards to that, Oculus, you might think that, well, wouldn't Oculus / Meta / Facebook, wouldn't they want to, kill that and put that, to rest? Why would they allow anybody to do that? Oddly enough, Oculus has been working with SideQuest because they want more and more users to jump into their ecosystem, whatever that ecosystem looks like, because it's going to sell more headsets, and that's where
Right.
they're going to make their money. Selling headsets and also licensing deals with a lot of the software applications within their ecosystem.
Mm.
So since Project Cambria is already Facebook, Meta, Oculus, I still see that moving forward. You'll be able to buy things directly from their store, but you'll also still be able to sideload things as well. And sideloading can come from either Unity, Unreal Engine, or their native SDK.
Okay.
So did that answer your question?
Yes, sure. Thanks.
Okay, sure. All right, and then continuing on the Quest 2, I was able to update both of my Quest 2 headsets to version 40. Version 40 does offer a lot of new features. It allows you to do parental locks on things. So if you have a lot of applications on your headset and you don't want your kids to be able to access them because either it's content you don't want them to see, violent content, first person shooters, whatever it is that you don't want your kids to be able to see, they do offer the ability to put these locks on the system where you have to actually enter a pattern. And it's kind of slick because it's like, okay, unless your kid knows a pattern, they won't be able to open these particular apps. I have noticed that things do boot up a little bit quicker with version 40 for Quest 2. Power management, in my mind, is a little bit better. So normally if I'm in bed and I'm watching movies or something like that, on Quest 2, I might get 2 to 3 hours. With the version 40, power management is a little bit better. So I am able to extend my battery life before I have to swap things out. I did recently start a new job, so I am trying to save some money. At the same time, I want to be able to spend a little, and I want to get some more applications and also upgrade some of my hardware. I want to get the additional head straps, the additional battery. Bobo VR offers a Halo type of headset for Quest 2 to make it a little bit easier to wear for long periods of time. So that's in the queue. So we did have a couple of new people join. Looks like Chris Kaufman recently joined. Welcome, Chris. So we're just going through news and events. The session is being recorded, and I've got some more links, and then we'll just open it up for discussion. So welcome, Christopher. All right, so switching gears onto another piece of augmented reality.
Hey, Todd.
Yes.
Yeah, so in regards to version 40 update, I'm usually pretty lucky to get the latest updates pretty quick because I joined like the tester group a while back. But I did notice that there was a problem where after the update, my profile and settings, I lost my whole library. I couldn't access it. And right before I was going to do a factory reset, because I've tried numerous stuff, I went into the settings and there's a default settings, factory just for the settings, default settings, and that actually resolved it. So I've heard a lot of people having some issues. And I think there's some problems whenever they do an update on that firmware. If you have certain settings that if they make changes to, let's say, the menu where things are located or whatnot, then that firmware is going to get thrown off a little bit because the settings are for the old version. So usually resetting it, I guess what I'm saying is resetting that sometimes resolves it if something like that ever comes up with some of these firmware versions.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And that issue did affect me, but it was on the previous version 39. So I have two Quest 2 headsets, but I use my same Facebook account on both of them. And after I upgraded to version 39, it was exactly the problem you just described. It's like, okay, where's all my apps? I don't see anything. What the heck is going on? I upgraded and you took things away. This is maddening. And I did exactly what you just described. And when I did that, then everything came back. But yeah, trust me, it made my heart skip a beat thinking, oh my gosh, what just happened? Did this thing just brick itself? So I was slightly panicking, but did some Google foo and figured out, okay, don't panic, don't freak out. Don't do the factory reset, but do the steps that you just described, and that fix the issue. So yeah, appreciate you sharing that. But yeah, that was scary and maddening at the same time. It's like, oh my gosh, what has happened?
Even the Guardian, I would highly recommend. The Guardians are simple to redo, but the Guardian is also something you want to do a reset on if you do a firmware. I learned that because it did screw with the tracking. So that's another thing.
Yeah, and speaking about Guardian, on that, when that happened, it completely forgot my Guardian system. So I had to like reset it up, whether I'm in my basement, whether I'm in my living room, sitting in my bed, or wherever. I lost all the Guardians, so I had to like redo all of those. But like I said, I've got developer mode enabled, so one of the first things I do is turn Guardian off.
Yeah,
because that's just so annoying.
that's what many do. Yeah, that's what I do by default also. Have you noticed any improvement on the hand tracking 2.0?
I personally, I haven't played with the new hand tracking. From what I've read, it's way better. So they can. So for those of you who want to know what we're referring to, so Oculus Quest 2 has controllers. Many virtual reality headsets have controllers. Hand tracking refers to being able to do things, interact with objects that don't use controllers. So you're just using your two hands. And so the improvements in the software isn't just recognizing hands in front of you, but how do they overlap? Like, can you see, my fingers of the hand in the background versus the fingers in the foreground? And then, can you see things, off screen? Like, how can sensors detect things that it can't directly see? And so the hand tracking has gotten much better on the newer versions of the software. So it's going to make it much easier to build applications where you don't have to fiddle with controllers. Okay, is it the palm button? Is it trigger button? Is it the A button? Is it the B button? Do you have to hold this thing in a particular angle? And so they're really trying to figure out, how do you interact with virtual reality without using controllers? And so that's what we're referring to. I haven't yet kicked the tires on hand tracking improvements yet on that. I want to do so because like I mentioned before, I do some things with art galleries, and trying to introduce virtual reality to elderly people. These are people who have never touched video games in their lives, and you want to put this thing on their face and you want them to fiddle with controllers. Some folks get it, but a lot of them just like, I don't get that. I just want to use my hands. So using hands and just a headset is a huge win for a lot of different applications.
The physics lab that you can sideload, I don't know if it's in the app lab yet or not, but the physics lab is supposed to be one of the good ones to test it with.
Okay, good to know. I appreciate that. Yep. Okay, so with regards to augmented reality, on screen, I have the Tilt 5 headset. They are going to be shipping in the next few months. So they're shipping to all of their Kickstarter backers, of course, first. But you can, for $5, you can hold your place in the queue to get a $360 augmented reality headset to play games on. And they've got a lot of different games. So they're creating their own store. You'll be able to play games either by yourself, or you can get additional headsets that will still use the same mat on a flat surface with a wand. They're calling this a wand, and to be able to play games. So I did give them my $5, so I'm in the queue. So when I get that, I can't wait to play with my first augmented reality headset. So that's way, way cheaper than the Magic Leap when it first came out. It's way cheaper than the $3,500 HoloLens 2 that you can get now with available financing and all of that. So I'm really excited to see what kinds of things you can do with Tilt 5. They've got a huge number of role-playing games that you can use with it. Obviously, they're building their own ecosystem too. So you'll be able to buy things and you'll be able to demo things as well. And yes, they have talked about, so they support Unity out of the gate, and Unreal Engine support is coming soon, is the latest that I've read about that. So Tilt 5, it's been a long time in the making. They've had their own series of ups and downs and financing and layoffs and hiring and firing and all of this jazz, but it's finally great to be able to see this thing reach the consumer market. So I'm really looking forward to getting my Tilt 5 unit. All right. One of the interesting formats that has been getting pushed in the last several years is this thing called USD. This does not refer to US dollars, but it refers to universal scene description. This is a format that was actually created by Pixar Animation Studios, makers of Toy Story and a lot of other great movies. And they created that as a standard internally. Well, that standard internally has become like wildfire, and there's a lot of companies that are now supporting the .usd file format. So what does it do, and how do you use it? Why would you even care about it? It allows you for seamless movement of things you create in a digital content creation program like 3ds Max, Maya, Blender, to be able to move things into an art pipeline and be able to have it render in whatever game engine or whatever engine that you're using. And it can work seamlessly. So it's easy to be updated. It does have its own quirks and caveats. And if you don't know what universal scene description is, I'm going to put this into chat as well. Wikipedia is a good place to start for information, but it's not the only source of information. So definitely take a look at some of the links in there. But also with regards to Unreal Engine and Unity, they do support USD. Excuse me. I don't know what the current state is with Unity with regards to USD support, but in those links, Unreal Engine 5.0 does support it. It is currently in beta. So a lot of the game engine companies, if they say that, hey, we're going to be supporting this format, for sure that they're going to be all into it once more and more people in the industry are using it for lots of different things. So on screen, I have this free course from NVIDIA. I have an NVIDIA graphics card, so I'm also a NVIDIA developer. It's free to become an NVIDIA developer. There's nothing special about that. But the good part is that NVIDIA does offer a lot of free courses. So if you're interested in the USD format and what it can do, obviously this is an NVIDIA focused course. So they're going to be talking about, hey, this is how you do things in the NVIDIA Omniverse and all of this. But it's 2 hours. It's a free course. It does go into a lot of details on it. You don't have to have any requirements, but you do need to have, a little bit of understanding about what this thing is used for. So by all means, I love free courses. And when it's done with quality content, it makes me want to take the course even more. So if you have 2 hours and you want to learn about the USD file format, I'd highly recommend this free NVIDIA course. So any questions or comments on that?
Sort of related, Todd. I was approved for the beta of the precursor to Omniverse. It was called Holodeck. This was a few years ago, and at the time, I got approved to get into it. I started looking into the requirements, and it looked like it required a computer science degree just to kind of figure out the framework that you had to set up to make it work. Then it became Omniverse, and of course, as a beta, I don't think there was a limit on users, and of course, there was no cost and all that. Omniverse now has got a cost structure and a limit on. I think if you just want to use it with like 2 users, I think it's free, but then it quickly ramps up to kind of enterprise costs, if I recall, to add more folks into the pipeline, and maybe more importantly, the level of GPU and computing hardware required to play in the Omniverse sandbox is insanely high, which was a little bit of a disappointment. I mean, I can play in it, but I can't have all my, the colleagues around my firm contribute.
Yep.
Without having, equally powerful hardware. So I was a little bummed by that, but I am really interested in trying it out, and maybe there's some qualifiers on the hardware requirements that let others, use it without being so heavily invested in hardware. But I would in the future, I'd like to hear more on if others have gotten into Omniverse, and what are the roadblocks, how well is it working, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I do have some time coming up this weekend. So I do want to take this course and be able to kick the tires on it and just see what's what. Like I said, it is supported in Unreal Engine 5 in beta. And yet at the same time, it's like, okay, if this is going to be the file format to use in the future, it's better to learn a little bit about it now versus being forced into learning about something sometime in the future. So once I take the course and play with it a little bit in Unreal Engine, I'll have more to say about that and hopefully provide some good insights into, okay, is this really much better, or is it just kind of a little better? Because I can do .fbx files all day long, whether it's in Blender, or I build something in Oculus Medium, now Adobe Medium, or from whatever program. I can use .fbx files and pull it into a game engine all day long. Great. Hey Nancy, thanks for coming. Appreciate your time. So good to see you.
Yeah, I think the thing about Omniverse that's compelling, I really do, as a creator, like an artist creator myself, the compelling thing about Omniverse is that it has a real-time link that connects all of the softwares from different disciplines into one 3-dimensional environment, and in real time you see changes happening. There's no saving.
Okay.
There's no, and it's, I mean, it as soon as they can make it accessible and understandable, and really work out all of the workflow issues with plugins and other things, I think it could have a severe impact in a good way on the movie industry, the game industry, the architectural viz industry, all of them. Because as an example, I could be building a model in Revit, which is an architect software, right?
Mhm.
And that Revit is one of the platforms that's supported by Omniverse. A 3ds Max guy at the same time could be seeing what I'm doing in Revit by linking through Omniverse's Nucleus. I think that's how it works. And he could be seeing what I'm doing, and I could see what he's doing. He could be adding entourage, trees and cars and moving things. Then you could have somebody else using Substance Designer, creating custom texture maps and applying them in real time. And all the users, wherever you are in the world, you're connected to this central Nucleus server, this Nucleus component. There's a real-time preview application that all users can run and see all the changes happening in real time as they're made. And it's really, really compelling. And I think, to put an ambitious goal ahead of them, what about allowing somebody to be in this real-time viewer application in VR, watching all of the content being created around them? That would be, talk about a metaverse, like metaverse for artists. That would be phenomenal. And I really do think it has the potential to change industries, multiple industries, like nobody else is even talking about doing. So it's cool that a graphics card company is to credit for all of this.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's something to be said versus creating something on your own in VR, using VR tools versus being able to do it in a collaborative fashion with people from around the world, importing different types of assets. So it's not just static meshes, it's also sound, it's also lighting and things like that, and literally seeing something evolve dynamically before your eyes. That would be really cool to be able to see, and being able to create a metaverse for people to go explore. That's one thing, but to be able to dynamically create something for people to explore as it's being created,
Right.
That's a whole different level of interactivity. So you're gonna have people who are creating, and then people who are just kicking back and being like, okay, I'm gonna watch this clean slate turn into a Rembrandt before my eyes.
Oh, literally. There's that 3-dimensional Van Gogh exhibit that's been going around the world. It's like I don't think you're seeing the painting being painted, but it's like moving, it's like moving Van Gogh. In this case, it would be, you literally could see a brush stroke, I think, from an artist working in Photoshop on a texture that's on a wall that's being built by an architect and modified by an animator all at the same time. It's mind-boggling what that might, what that could offer at some point. I just keep putting off, like jumping in with both feet and trying it out.
Excuse me. All it takes time. It always takes time to set things aside and be like, okay, I'm gonna put my blinders on and deep dive into this tech for a couple hours. Nobody bother me.
I think I'll do the same course you're gonna do. I saw the ad on my Omniverse portal. It advertised this course you're looking at. I'm gonna do it too.
I have a question.
Awesome. All right.
Matt Wilson, I have a question about the USD. When I was looking at the Kronos forum, they have various groups where they have various standards that have been standardized for various things. But when it comes to scene description, they have left it empty and saying, things are still evolving in that open XR space. And, I've seen that only the, USD from this NVIDIA is the one, the front runner there for scene description. So do you see almost like USD becoming like the HTML, what HTML was for web, this being a standard for the virtual and augmented reality world?
I don't know. I mean, I think it could easily replace FBX as a format, but I think it may have much greater potential than that. I just don't know enough about it. Because FBX can contain both mesh, mesh content, 3D content, as well as textured content, as well as animated content. So what's left? Maybe sound, maybe maybe temporals, aspect. I don't know.
Okay.
Is lighting and cameras and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it could be. Could be it could cover
Material, maybe in like material nodes. There's all this node-based material stuff now.
Yeah, so there's another term, MDL, which is a material description language. I think it's what it stands for. That one I believe comes from NVIDIA, not Pixar. And again, I don't know enough about it, but I feel like Pixar embraced that standard as well a long time ago. I don't know. I gotta learn about it. If anybody knows, please share.
Yeah, and so looking at the link on the Unreal Engine thing, I'll just go ahead and pull that up on screen just so everyone can see it. So they do talk about, obviously, static meshes, but it's also with regards to animators, lighting, shading artists, FX, being able to do lots of things. But this is the one that I wanted to just mention, is that all of these items, so static meshes, skeleton meshes, materials, lights, cameras, variants, animations, blend shapes, non-destructive, being able to do obviously lots of different textures and materials. They have USD plugins, which can allow for different importing and exporting into the actual file format. So it's way much more than just seeing things on screen with your eyeball. So it's everything with regards to lighting and everything in addition to what's already been described. And the cool part is, you can do things in Python. So being able to create USD from scratch, I think is going to be a whole new field. I mean, the whole concept of shaders is just that. How do you create something that's visually compelling? And in Unreal Engine, they call those materials, but shaders, materials is kind of the same thing. But to be able to programmatically create something that is visual, that's huge. And to be able to do that in Python natively is even bigger. And again, as far as UE5 goes, it's a beta feature. Don't use it for production just yet, but trust me, this is going to be used for production really, really soon. Just a heads up on that. All right, and then the last thing I just wanted to mention is that a lot of folks have been asking, okay, so I built something in virtual reality, and then how do I distribute it? Or, okay, something got rejected from the Oculus store or the Steam VR store or wherever. I've done like a demo on, SideQuest, and I want to take things to the next level. So if you ever have paying customers and you want to create something that you can deploy to Oculus Quest 2 headsets in addition to other headsets. This is a service that that I use, and it's really pretty slick. What ManageXR allows you, and I'm not being paid for this, by the way. What ManageXR allows you to do is that for $7 to $10 per headset, you turn the headset on in developer mode, and then you can deploy remotely to the headset. So let's say I have, like I mentioned before, if I have somebody who likes some of the art galleries that I, can create, and someone says, hey, I've got some new pictures, I want you to put this into an art gallery, and I want you to build me a new one. And with that, I can use this software to deploy to headsets remotely after developer mode has been activated. So if you have a application that you want to be able to remotely deploy to Oculus Quest 2 headsets or similar type of headsets, this piece of software allows you to do that. You can manage all these different things. You can do version control on them. I've been using them for a while just to actually test the waters. I don't have thousands of people on this type of a platform, but $7 to $10 a month per headset. I think that's fairly reasonable for a subscription-based model. So again, been using them for a bit. I like what they're doing. It makes it easy. One of the other gentlemen in COVAR, they use this all the time for a lot of things, and they do with hundreds of headsets. So it's definitely possible to remotely deploy and control custom apps using this particular piece of software. So,
Todd, I don't have a fleet of headsets at my disposal, but if I've got personal content, fitness apps, games, whatever, on my personal headset, is it possible to enable developer mode and upload an experience of some sort that so the user is locked out from the rest of the headset's content? Can you manage or how does that work?
Yeah, so ManageXR does offer what they call a kiosk mode. So
Yeah.
you can deploy your app, and then you can prevent any other apps from running. So this is great for customer demos or things where you want them to be able to turn on the headset and only your app comes up. You don't see all of the other things come up. So yes, they do have a kiosk mode.
Okay, great.
Yep. So, all right. So with that, I know it's been a worldwide tour, a lot of news and events, hardware, software. Again, if anybody has any demos or things they'd like to be able to show at some time, just give me a heads up in the future, and I can give you host control on Zoom, and you can show us what you're working on. I know in the past I've done some things with an open brush, so I've done some creating a very short work of art in a very limited time frame, just to be able to do a demo. So yes, I have hooked up my Quest 2 over AirLink and Hardwire 2 and over Zoom, and it works. So I can see what's happening inside. So all of the viewers on Zoom can see what's happening inside the VR headset itself. So that seems to work. So if any of you have a demo you want to be able to show, get some feedback on, please contact me over the meetup link. Contact the owner, and we can go from there. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. And does anybody have any questions or comments or things they'd like to be able to share this evening?
Yes, I mean, I'm just starting out in this space. I have tons of questions. And the first thing that I wanted to do is basically build a PC which can work with the Unreal Engine. I'm gravitated very much towards Unreal Engine for my development purposes. So, I was looking at the 12th generation. And is there, first of all, would you have any website or a link where you could recommend that there are certain configurations that would go work? Just looking at the budget range being $1,500 to $2,000.
Yes. So if you want to develop for virtual reality, you don't need a super high-end system.
Mhm.
However, it depends on the level of fidelity that you want to have in a system. If you want to do something wireless, completely wireless, you don't need to have a high-end system to do development on. If your end user experience is going to be something high-end, then yes, you do need to have a decent system, either a high-end desktop or a gaming laptop. So budget-wise, it really depends on what your requirements are, and how much you're willing to actually spend. But you can get a decent system, laptop or desktop rig, anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000. If you need to go with something a little bit smaller, you can. If you're developing for something like the Oculus Quest 2, it really comes down to when you go to build the application.
Okay.
A lot of the things that I build, that I've personally built, they'll render in anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes on my desktop rig. On a laptop, that can take a little bit longer, but it's not that much longer, because essentially you're building an Android application. So an Android application needs to run on an Android capable device. Android devices are not screaming, fire-breathing dragons. These are resource constrained pieces of hardware. So you don't need a whole lot of equipment in order to build on that. Now, if you want to do something that is absolutely drop dead gorgeous, photorealistic, millions of polygons, things like that, then yes, you need to have a high-end system that can maintain frame rate for that level of experience that you want to be able to provide to customers or whatever whoever you're showing with. But if you're just getting into this, don't think you've got to spend a lot of money to jump in to VR. I've used 5-year-old laptops to successfully deploy things to a Quest 2 headset. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my laptop is old, like probably 8-year-old, 2014, but high end at that point in time. It was a quad core 2.5 gig, 16 GB RAM, but it has just the Intel Iris accelerator, not the NVIDIA one. So that's every time I try to create the hello world through this Unreal Engine, it just crashes. So
Yeah.
I'm not even able to start the
Yeah.
Unreal Engine.
I mean, I would say your GPU, depending on what you're pushing, what you're asking the computer to do, the GPU is becoming the more important component in your machine. Certainly more than multiple cores and crazy amounts of RAM and all that stuff, and even the processor speed. At least for what I do, is kind of becoming less and less and less important. I could have a completely average spec desktop with a Ferrari of a card and do better than most other machines out there with middle of the road cards, just because of what I do. Now, I don't know about the building process, like when you're compiling a game, or if you're I'm not sure how much of the GPU Unreal, for example, is using for the actual computation of a scene, like baking, lighting, and that kind of thing for a 3D environment. I would suspect it's heavily using the GPU power more than the other components, but that's It's my advice. I mean, but the size of the card that you get in terms of, buffer, VRAM, your VRAM capacity, and how many CUDA cores and such that it has, and all tensor cores and all the various different types of processing cores they have, probably depends on the type of product you're creating. If you're not going photoreal and a ginormous scene, it would be overkill probably to buy a Ferrari of a GPU. That's somewhat of an uneducated vantage point on the compiling part, but as a creator, the GPU is definitely the main component that we care about.
Yeah, and that's good, Matt. And it wasn't uneducated. You've been doing this for quite some time, so I appreciate your input as
Well,
always.
I haven't created any titles, put it that way. I've never done the, publish to a headset part of it. I've just done the real-time stuff.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I would definitely take a look at if you're just getting into this, and let's say you can't afford an expensive outlay of cash at the beginning to build a system. You can now provision NVIDIA powered workstations in the cloud. So AWS offers some things. Also, Azure offers some workstations. So if you can go with paying usage per month, or however you can pay per usage, there are virtual machines that have graphics cards on them or available to them in the cloud. And I have seen many university courses being taught that use cloud workstations because students don't have access to fire-breathing dragons sitting on their desktops, or they can't afford some very expensive laptop to do to do those kinds of things. And so I've seen many people leveraging cloud workstations with GPUs to perform development for games, either Unity, Unreal Engine, or native SDKs and so on. So that's definitely an option to go look at.
Well, that's really interesting. Yeah, I was not thinking about that option at all. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So great. So good discussions. Anything else anybody wanted to bring up before we kind of wrap things up tonight?
I'd just like to add, Todd, that I'm still looking forward to the opportunity where we can meet in VR, even if we're not, in the same room. For those that have headsets and hardware that will allow them to do that. So if somebody has a good platform just to use that I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, there's a lot of options out there for that.
Yeah.
A lot of options.
Those of you that are experienced in that, I just let's set it up. Let's just do it one of these times. Maybe we don't meet the whole meeting. Maybe it's part of the meeting and then switch back to on screen. But there's an app that it's a paid app historically called The Wild. It's a meeting app that is used for architects, maybe others, but they acquired another program called Iris VR, which is another architect multi-user app. And so it's like the little fish getting eaten by the bigger and the bigger and the bigger. Well, The Wild was recently acquired by Autodesk. So it's not been determined how that's going to fall into their lineup of the suites of applications that they bundled together. But at some point, I could see that being a great platform for us to meet on if it becomes part of the subscription that we already pay for as a company. Because the cool thing about it is that The Wild offers you not only a 3D space to meet in, and I could build the space myself with whatever props in it I want, but within this 3D space, you can have virtual video screens displaying desktop content. And
Yep.
I think it gives you the ability to bring in both VR and non-VR users into a meeting and see the same content. Obviously, some of them would be seeing it stereoscopically and others would just be seeing a screen. But it's a cool concept. I'm just hoping they get to the figuring out how it's going to be offered to Autodesk subscribers sooner rather than later.
Cool. Yep. Yeah. So what I'd like to do for the July meeting is to do something just like what you described. We'll do some intros, news and events, and then we'll, cut to, okay, everybody put on your Quest 2 headsets and let's jump into
Definitely.
to XYZ. So it's either going to be something native to Quest 2, like a Horizon Worlds or Horizon or whatever it's being called now. They've changed their names a couple different times. I know that we've done VR chat in the past. We've done a couple other VR things. So the challenge though is that you still need to have a back channel to communicate with people. Either have like Zoom running on your desktop saying, okay, here's the thing where we're going to click here, because when we've done this in the past, when we're switching between different VR environments, people get lost. They're like, okay, I don't know where to go. I didn't click on the right thing. I'm in some space with a bunch of people who are not in the meeting that I thought were going to be here. And anyway, so I'd still like to be able to keep it fairly small, but something that does a value add for everybody participating. And I know that there are things in the Quest 2 that have gotten better, different Bluetooth mice, different Bluetooth keyboards. So people still want to be able to either use their controllers, or they want to be able to still interact as if they're still using a computer, a desktop computer in front of them. So I'll put something together and we'll give it a shot for next month as part of the presentation. So
cool.
Yeah, looking forward to that, because it's going to force me to learn even more about some of the things that just came out.
maybe that would be a good topic for just spend one meeting just on social apps and kind of show them, demo them or something. Stick on one topic, and then eventually maybe we can agree on that one.
I like that idea.
I've got the product rep for the Wild. This guy named AJ, he's been courting us for a couple of years now, and he always kind of touches base with me about every once a month. I'm sure if I asked him, he would host a meeting for us in the Wild. And maybe it's only for part of the time, but he could give us a demo, what it's how to use it and what the features are, and then I'm sure he'd be fine just sitting back and listening to the conversation, whatever we want to talk about, for as long as we want to talk. I bet you I could get that with no cost demo from the guy,
Cool.
if that's a good platform. But again, I defer to those of you that have done this more than I have, and we'll get it going.
Yeah, it's still a very wild and woolly place. So
Yes.
if you want to ping me offline and see if we can just try something, set something up, I'm definitely open to that, and would love to be able to kick the tires on a neat, cool platform. So that'd be fun.
Cool.
Great. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording here, and